Dozens of A-10 Warthogs just deployed to the Philippines in the largest show of American ground attack force in the Pacific in over a decade. These aren't transport planes or surveillance aircraft. These are flying tanks designed for one purpose: destroying ground forces and armored columns. And they're positioning 200 miles from the Taiwan Strait during the most dangerous moment in U.S.-China relations since the Cold War. This deployment isn't routine. It's a message, and China is absolutely paying attention. In March 2025, Clark Air Base in the Philippines saw the largest A-10 deployment to the Pacific theater since the aircraft was withdrawn from South Korea in 2013. 12 A-10C Thunderbolt II aircraft from the 25th Fighter Squadron arrived first. Within 72 hours, another squadron deployed. Reports indicate 24-36 A-10 SEDs are now operational at Philippine bases, the largest concentration of ground attack aircraft in Southeast Asia. The Philippine government wasn't shocked. They requested this under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, signed in 2014 and expanded in 2023. The Philippines granted the U.S. access to 9 military bases. Clark Air Base, just 200 miles from Taiwan, is now hosting the aircraft specifically designed to destroy Chinese armor and ships in a Taiwan invasion scenario. But here's why this matters right now. China has been conducting military exercises around Taiwan weekly. Their naval forces regularly enter Philippine waters. Their Coast Guard rams Philippine vessels. The Philippines went from neutral to actively requesting American military presence because Beijing's aggression forced them to choose sides. And the U.S. responded by sending the one aircraft China fears most in a ground war. The A-10 isn't the fastest jet. It's not stealthy. It can't do air-to-air combat. But it has one capability no other aircraft matches. It destroys everything on the ground with terrifying efficiency. And in a Taiwan invasion scenario, that's exactly what the U.S. needs. The GAU-8 Avenger cannon fires 3,900 rounds per minute. That's 65 rounds per second. Each round is 30 mm, about the size of a beer bottle, traveling at 3,500 feet per second. The depleted uranium penetrator can punch through 69 mm of armor at 500 meters. Chinese Type 99 tanks have 600 to 700 mm of armor on the front, but 45 mm on the sides and top. One pass from an A-10, and a dozen tanks are burning wrecks. But it's not just tanks. The A-10 carries 16,000 pounds of ordnance. That's AGM-65 Maverick missiles for precision strikes on ships and bunkers. GBU-12 laser-guided bombs for infrastructure targets. Hydra-70 rockets for troop formations. And the cannon has 1,174 rounds, enough for multiple attack runs before returning to base. The aircraft is built to survive. The cockpit is a titanium bathtub that can take 23 mm cannon fire. Dual engines separated wide apart, so one can fail and the plane still flies. Redundant flight controls. Foam-filled fuel tanks. The A-10 was designed to fly low, slow, and directly into anti-aircraft fire while destroying Soviet tank columns. That survivability is why it's still in service 50 years after first flight. And here's the critical part for a Taiwan scenario. The A-10 operates from rough airstrips, highways, and damaged runways. If China hits major airbases with missiles, the A-10 can disperse to dozens of small fields across the Philippines and continue operations. Firth, 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 Panu, and dirt. This isn't about defending the Philippines. Philippine airspace threats are minimal. This is about pre-positioning assets for a Taiwan contingency. Clark Air Base is 200 miles from Taiwan's southern coast. Flight time 20 minutes. If China invades Taiwan, those A-10 SETH can be over the Taiwan Strait before Chinese forces secure the beaches. The Chinese invasion plan depends on speed, amphibious assault across the Taiwan Strait, Secure beachheads, establish air superiority, land armored forces, overwhelm Taiwanese defenses before the U.S. can intervene. The A-10 deployment cuts that timeline. A Chinese amphibious invasion is the most target-rich environment possible for A-10. Landing craft packed with troops, tanks driving off ships onto beaches, supply convoys moving inland, artillery batteries setting up positions, everything exposed, slow-moving, and vulnerable. This is literally what the A-10 was designed to destroy. One squadron of A-10 Sud could turn Taiwan's beaches into a graveyard of burning Chinese equipment. But here's the strategic calculation. China knows this. They know A-10 Sides are now 20 minutes from Taiwan. They know that in the critical first hours of an invasion, when success depends on getting armored forces ashore quickly, American aircraft specifically designed to kill armor are already in position. This doesn't make invasion impossible. It makes it significantly more costly. The A-10 represents everything about American military capability that China can't counter. Their strategy for Taiwan depends on anti-access/area denial, keeping American forces far enough away that China can invade before the U.S. responds. A-10 SEMs, already in the Philippines, break that strategy. China's S-400 air defense systems are designed for high-altitude, high-speed threats. Cruise missiles, stealth bombers, advanced fighters. The S-400's tracking radar struggles with low altitude, slow-moving targets in ground clutter. The A-10 flies at 300 feet at 300 knots, using terrain to mask its approach. By the time Chinese radar sorts the A-10 from ground clutter, it's already firing. China's Air Force is designed for air superiority, not ground attack. Their J-20 stealth fighters are built to shoot down American F-35Cs and bombers. Their J-10 and J-11 fighters are air-to-air focused. China has very few dedicated ground attack aircraft. They assumed precision missiles would handle ground targets, but missiles cost $3 million each. A-10 cannon rounds cost $30 each. Economics matter. China's amphibious assault doctrine has no good answer for the A-10. Their Type 071 and Type 075 amphibious assault ships are massive, 25,000 to 40,000 tons, and carry hundreds of troops and dozens of vehicles. They're also slow, unarmored, and visible from 50 miles away. One A-10 with Maverick missiles could mission kill a Type 071, stranding 800 troops and 20 tanks that never reach shore. But here's what really worries Chinese military planners. The A-10 can loiter over a battlefield for 2+ hours. Chinese amphibious operations require 6 Maidavars to get the first wave ashore. That's 6 Mikas 8 hours of A-10 Seth returning from Clark Air Base, reloading, and coming back to hit the same landing zones repeatedly. Chinese forces can't hide on a beach. They can't disperse while unloading. They're sitting targets for the exact aircraft designed to kill sitting targets. This deployment is a tripwire. Not in the literal sense, AA-NIAS aren't a suicide force. But psychologically, it forces China to consider what happens when they attack. If A-10 SETI engage Chinese forces attacking Taiwan, American pilots die. American aircraft are shot down. At that point, the U.S. is directly at war with China, and escalation becomes inevitable. China's calculus was based on speed and fait accompli. Invade fast, secure Taiwan before the U.S. can respond in force. Present America with a done deal. Taiwan is ours now. Do you really want to start World War III to reverse it? That strategy requires the U.S. to be far away when invasion starts. E-10C in the Philippines mean the U.S. is already there. The Philippine government knows exactly what they're hosting. They're not naive. Allowing A-10C at Clark Air Base makes the Philippines a Chinese target in any Taiwan conflict. Chinese missiles could hit those bases, but the Philippines made the calculation that Chinese aggression in the South China Sea, ramming their vessels, Claiming their territory, threatening their fishermen, is already making them a target. Better to have American protection than face China alone. The U.S. isn't just defending Taiwan. They're building a coalition. The Philippines, Japan, South Korea, Australia, all hosting American forces, all coordinating defenses, all signaling to China that aggression against one means war with all. The A-10 deployment is a physical manifestation of that alliance. American aircraft, on Philippine soil, defending shared interests. The A-10 SOLV aren't leaving. This isn't a training exercise with a defined end date. This is forward deployment during a period of sustained tension. As long as China threatens Taiwan, those A-10s will be at Clark Air Base, ready to fly. China will respond. Not necessarily militarily. They're not going to attack the Philippines directly over this. But expect increased military exercises near Philippine waters, more Coast Guard incidents, more diplomatic pressure. China's strategy is to make hosting American forces so uncomfortable that the Philippines reconsiders. So far, it's having the opposite effect. More assets will follow. A-10 SAE are just the ground attack component. Expect rotations of F-35 SAE are for air superiority, F-15X for long-range strike, tankers for refueling, transport aircraft for logistics. The Philippines is becoming the forward logistics hub for American forces in a potential Taiwan conflict. That's the strategic shift, from we'll respond from Guam to we're already positioned next door. They see American commitment manifesting as actual aircraft at actual bases within strike range. That's different from vague security guarantees. And operational. It tells Taiwan that if China invades, American aircraft will engage immediately, not days later after positioning forces, but within hours. But here's the tension this creates. Every day the A-10 sit at Clark Air Base. China's window for a surprise invasion closes further. If their strategy depends on speed and the U.S. being slow to respond, that strategy is already degraded. This could deter invasion, or it could accelerate Chinese timetables, act before the U.S. positions even more forces. If you saw videos of A-10s taking off from Philippine bases, you witnessed the repositioning of American military power in the Pacific. This isn't shock and awe. This isn't a show of force. This is operational deployment of combat aircraft to forward positions during a period of heightened strategic tension. The A-10 is 50 years old, but it remains in service because no other aircraft can do what it does: fly low, survive hits, destroy ground forces with unmatched efficiency. The U.S. has tried to retire it multiple times. Congress keeps funding it, because in scenarios like Taiwan, where the enemy has tanks on beaches and ships in shallow water, the A-10 is still the best weapon available. The Philippines hosting these aircraft is a geopolitical statement. They're choosing sides in the great power competition between the U.S. and China. That choice has consequences. Economic pressure from China, potential targeting in a conflict, domestic political backlash. They're making it anyway because the alternative, being vulnerable to Chinese coercion with no allies, is worse. And China is absolutely paying attention. Their military planners are redoing invasion calculations. How many A-10 SAE can respond? How much damage could they inflict? How many landing ships need to be sunk to derail the invasion timeline? Every answer makes the invasion harder, costlier, and riskier. This deployment isn't shocking. It's strategic. The shock would be if the U.S. did nothing while China positioned forces for Taiwan invasion. Instead, the U.S. is positioning its own forces, and the Philippines is providing the bases. That's alliance warfare in the 21st century, not formal declarations, but quiet deployments that change the strategic balance before a single shot is fired. The A-10 SAE are there. They're operational, and they're not leaving until the threat to Taiwan changes. That's not shock. That's strategy.